Welcome to the Rise Together podcast weekly hot take series. Every week, we're going to bring you powerful stories and strategies from leaders who are making a real impact by building stronger, more resilient communities. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and equipped with the tools to thrive in both your personal and professional life.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Beth Almaris with the Foundation for Family and Community Healing. At the Foundation, we're really dedicated to helping individuals and organizations build strength and resilience through skill-based education. I'm really excited today. We have a really interesting guest. We have Mary Despe de Echemendia, so sorry, who is new to her new last name because she recently got married. So hopefully she'll forgive me. And,
Oh,
and I'm really excited to talk to Mary today. She is a career coach and has her own consulting firm. How you doing, Mary?
doing great, Beth. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a really interesting time to talk to a career coach. So thanks for being here. So why don't
Yeah.
you tell me a little bit about your company and how you started it and why you started it?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me think. Before I got into career coaching, I've spent many years in the recruiting space and hiring and HR. So I would say I spent about, probably at least 10 years before I decided to make it and give it a go as your own business. So I started my business MK Despe Consulting in 2013 officially. At that point, it was mainly like a staffing agency. So I helped a lot of people find roles and worked with companies to hire talent, and really enjoyed that. I'm based in Hawaii. So it's kind of interesting when you're here because when I moved here in like 2010, I didn't really have much of a network. And a lot of people I did know, they were still back, on the US mainland. So, um, within the last few years, how a lot of people have been working remotely. I've actually been working remotely since like 2011. So, um, it was a real fortune for me in the sense that I could help a lot of people, not just in my geographic location, but I could still help them wherever they were with their talent needs. And, that was pretty fun to a degree. But after many years doing it, I'm like, this is fine, but like what I was getting restless and I just was like, what do I really enjoy? And I like people that I did know. And the part that I liked the most was really helping the individuals overcome a challenge professionally, really. And my way was to help them find jobs, but I was finding that I was getting more involved outside of
Mm,
just finding a job with them. So that's
yeah.
basically how it started. So my business shifted to a different, like not recruiting anymore, but more of the focus into coaching and really working one-on-one with people. Yeah. And about 3 years ago, I would say.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I know it's a really interesting job market right now. And I probably a lot of people unfortunately are getting laid off and really, when that happens is a great time to kind of take a step back and look at what you've been doing and maybe make a change or at least entertain the idea. Are you seeing a lot of people interested in changing?
Absolutely. I mean, if it's not change, it's like in terms of a profession, it's change in some sort of something. Like their values are different. Um, money is great always and essential, but like if that's not the fuel that fires you, it really shows. Or some people need more time.
Hmm.
Time with their families, time to do other things, time to help with the balance. And so they know that there's some sort of change that has to be in place. But yes, but there are plenty of people, they have been laid off, or there's some sort of transition, and it's like an opportunity to be like, oh, okay, so how are we really going to do this now? Now that I have the chance, how do I want to do it? So, yeah. So what you're saying is absolutely happening. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You were talking about balance, and that feeds into that kind of wellness, which is something that, we think a lot about at our organization, and not just like physical wellness, but obviously emotional,
Mm-hmm.
relational wellness, and how work can play into that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel personally, and I'm glad that this is one of the things where places, be it individuals, but also organizations, I feel that there, in general, is more of an acceptance that yes, this is a thing. This has always been a thing, but maybe, we've just not put it front and center or an essential element to success and feeling good and being at our best. But you're absolutely right. I feel that a lot of um, wellness takes the shape and form in different organizations and for people. I mean, I know that um, myself personally, since I'm a sole proprietorship, and I've worked from home for so long by myself, I really find that I miss that social connection with
Mm-hmm.
people, not just like this, but like one on one. So
Sure.
it sounds a little silly, but like I have to build in time where I'm like interacting with people outside of work, outside of, part of the community, just doing things with other people to connect, because for me, that helps me feel centered and like really brings it back to purpose and just feeling good and connected to the world. And I do see it more in organizations that I work with. Maybe, it's interesting now because there are so many layoffs and other things happening that many organizations do offer support for those people who've been laid off, as they should, to help find a role. But there's also a lot of organizations too that are starting to offer services for those left behind at the job, not laid off,
Mm.
because their workforce, I mean, hello, it's gotten smaller, and like the workload has doubled or tripled in some cases. And that's a lot to carry, let alone the managers. Many of them are the ones delivering the messages, and they have to be very confidential about things happening for a long time. That weighs on the soul. And so providing a space that's confidential to talk through what they're going through, and offer support one-on-one through coaching, but also through other programs and such. I mean, I see that more and more with organizations. So I think that's good. I think that's very good and necessary, but, just knowing and acknowledging that emotional side and just the balance is very important.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it sounds like you've been involved in recruiting and HR for quite a while. How has it changed over the years?
Oh, goodness. Wow. That's a great question. Okay. So, I will say that when I started recruiting, it was, let's see, probably around 2000. So it's been 20 some years. Before that, even I had been in the workforce, and I wasn't in recruiting, but I was like in HR. So like I was sort of familiar with some of the stuff, but what I've seen over the years is, um, definitely now there's a lot of emphasis on automation, the impersonalness of selection and hiring in the early stages. So when I say early stages, it's, applying online. It's all of the front entry of you as a candidate. It's very much automated with AI and different algorithms and things to help, make people on recruiting teams more productive and save their time. So, unfortunately, that's come at the cost, for the most part, of candidates. They just, you don't really get these situations anymore in most organizations where, you could speak with someone who's involved in hiring early on and be like, so what is this person's background and what do they do on the team? You can't really find that. Like, they can't really articulate and understand how roles and people contribute to businesses. And that's important because it's far more than just skills.
Right.
It's everything else that you bring, and like being able to interpret backgrounds or even ask questions if you're not sure. That seems to not be as emphasized. I mean, I know that people say that that's not true, putting in these systems, but I mean, as a lay person or, person in the field, that's probably a critique that I've seen. And that's, it's really disheartening, I think, for many people, because if you want traction, you have to adapt in the way that they're playing the game now, which is all about formatting, keyword matching, relevance, and how you compare to other candidates on the back end from that, the resume to the job description. So it's really tough in that sense. But what I usually tell people is, yes, the internet is a great thing and it certainly helps facilitate applications, but there are other things that make us great candidates. I mean, it's, the work that we do and like the people that we know and the connection that we can ask and help, seeing if we can help other people or asking them questions to help, move this automated nature of applying along. I mean, there's a real power in our networks to some degree, and it forces us as candidates to maybe be, not just a little bit more stretching for something that we're not, because we've always just applied and people would call us, but now we have to get a little more creative than that to gain that traction. So these are things that I talk to and work with people around, because not everyone feels comfortable doing the same things, and I completely respect that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, what doesn't seem so much as a stretch for you? Let's talk it through and see. It's things like that. What ways can we engage, or, see if you could follow up with someone in a different way, or like what networking, it doesn't have to be a job fair, but it could be a conference or something, a meetup that you're going to, like, who else could you be meeting? Those sorts of things. But I feel it's very impersonal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think it's hard too when you're trying to, especially if you're trying to find a good fit as from a work culture, it's hard to know that until you're very far along in the process.
Yes.
If everything is so automated and there's no like human touch, so to speak.
That's true. That's true. I know I have said this before, that I feel like the processes now put so much more on the candidate to do the research and beyond, not even just research. It's like, okay, listen to this podcast to get a sense of what they're working on and like what the people are like, or reach out to these random people. There's a lot of advice out there that tell you to, find the culture on your own. But a lot of times it's, it doesn't have to be all on the candidate. It shouldn't be. Most hiring practices, it should be a bit of both. I mean, certainly if you're a candidate interested, you want to show you're interested. So you're going to do research, but at the same time, organizations, and you want the right people, you want the ones that align with your values and what you're doing and who you're serving. So you want to make sure that you're putting that out there instead of it being like, aha, I'm just like, look at all these people and we'll just pick. I mean, it's a partnership, so it should be both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think some of the trends that job seekers can expect over the next few years?
Oh boy. Well, a big thing that everyone keeps talking about, and we're in it right now, is there are a lot of places that talk about people needing to have AI skills to like get hired. And I kind of chuckle at that because I'm like, well, what does that really mean? And I do agree that yes, this idea that everyone just before, like 20 some years ago, not everyone had to use a computer, but it was becoming very evident that like this is like a basic skill in a lot of roles, right? Being able to be proficient with computer use and software use. Okay. So same kind of thing with AI, but what we're defining it to be is like, it's a wild west right now. It can be anything. So I feel like, um, you know, being able to show that you're adaptable to AI, being in the sense that you're making the jobs that you're doing a little bit easier, or you're using it in creative ways to help improve a process or improve, adding quality to it and not really using it as original content in your own thought. That is very, very, very important. By how companies will measure that, I mean, it's different company to company.
Sure.
There's really not right now a specific standard on anything to say, yes, you are proficient in AI. But I think in time we will see more of that. And then just examples of specific activities that indicate that.
Mm,
Um, so I think it's important to grow with the technology. I think that's important. But I also think too, because technology is front and center, that is a real opportunity for the people aspect. Like, how do you lead? How do you interact with people that are very, different groups of people? Not a lot of people I feel really work on that in the workforce. It's like, oh yeah, they're used to being with people who are very technically savvy or very similar to them. But that's a real opportunity for people to be very, if I can say it, fluent in all sorts of ways of life and being able to relate and motivate and build some sort of thing that people are moving together. I mean, that is going to very much be a skill. I mean, I know it's always been a skill, but I think we've taken it for granted. We don't think of it as much, but the people aspect is very much going to be important because, sure, people might paint a picture of like automated machines and all these things can do things for you, but we're still going to need humanity.
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I think. So they're kind of like on the opposite sides of the spectrum, the skills, the trends. Yeah. So,
Well, I mean, I think leadership development has always been important, but it hasn't always been um, embraced for sure.
absolutely.
A lot of
Absolutely.
people end up in leadership positions because they're subject matter experts or because they've
Mhm.
been somewhere X number of years versus, they really have either the skills and or the personality type to really, you know, be strong and
Yeah,
really good leaders in every sense of the word of good.
absolutely. Yeah, I would say that, I mean, I think leadership development is really important going into, the next few years, especially because there are so many people that don't think it's very important. I mean, it's all about the shiny machines and the way
Mm,
the quicker. And it's like, well, but that's fine, but we're not left by ourselves.
yeah,
So like, what are we going to do there, and how do we motivate with on top of all these other conditions?
right.
That's
And how
very
do
important.
we make sure the employees we do have don't feel that are using AI still get the chance to feel creative and like they're contributing and they have
Yeah,
real job satisfaction too.
absolutely.
Well, this was a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Mary. Where can folks find you if they want to learn more about your
Yeah,
work?
so they can find me at two places. So I'm definitely on LinkedIn and always appreciate a reach out. So it's Mary Despe de Echemendia on LinkedIn, or they can visit my website, which is Mary Despe, MARYDESPE.com. But yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us today on our Rise Together podcast weekly hot take series. We hope you've been inspired by today's stories and strategies for building stronger, more resilient communities. Remember, resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about growing through every challenge to become bigger and better. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with somebody who could benefit from these insights. Stay connected, stay resilient, and we'll see you next time.